What's going on, guys? Let's continue our journey through our GCSE Psychology curriculum, and today we're going to be looking at language and thought. So we're starting off by looking at Piaget's theory. Now, if you guys remember, we've got a video which breaks down the whole idea behind Piaget's cognitive development. There is a link to this video which is in the description. But yeah, let's have a look at how that relates to language and thought. So this is Piaget right here. So Jean Piaget believed that thought develops before language. According to Piaget, children must first develop cognitive structures, so ways of thinking, before they can use language meaningfully. He believes that language is therefore seen as a reflection of cognitive development and not the cause of it. The key ideas of Piaget's theory. Number one is that thought comes before language. Children understand concepts before they can put them into words. For example, a child can understand the idea of object permanence before learning the word for the object. And this means language simply labels existing thoughts. Number two is that language depends on cognitive development. A child's use of language is limited by their stage of thinking. As thinking becomes more complex, language becomes more advanced. Children cannot talk about ideas they are not yet cognitively ready to understand. 3. Egocentric speech. So Piaget observed that young children often talk without considering the listener, and this is called egocentric speech. So they'll just kind of go and waffle on without really paying attention to the person that's listening. And it happens because children are egocentric in their thinking and not yet able to see others' perspectives. Piaget believed egocentric speech decreases as cognitive development progresses. So we've got this table here which shows 4 different stages of Piaget's development. So sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. The ages that correlate towards those, and language characteristics that can be found in those particular stages. So for example, the sensory motor stage, ages 0 to 2, and the idea that there is no true language and understanding develops before the words. Whereas if we jump forward to the formal operational stage, which is 11 plus years of age, there is abstract and hypothetical language that is being used by the children. So what are some of the strengths of this? So it highlights the importance of cognitive development, and it's based on detailed observations of children. It's influential in understanding child development. And what about the weaknesses? So it underestimates how much language influences thinking. For example, research conducted by Vygotsky suggests egocentric speech helps thinking rather than disappearing, and children may be less egocentric than Piaget originally believed. So now we're going to take a look at the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis and see how this differs from Piaget's theory. So these gentlemen here are Edward Sapir and Benjamin Lee Whorf. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis suggests that the language we speak influences how we think and see the world. And there are 2 versions of this hypothesis. You've got the strong version, which is linguistic determinism, and a weak version, which is linguistic relativity. So in the strong version, the idea is that language determines thought. So if you don't have a word for something, you can't think about it. And this version is largely rejected by psychologists. Whereas the weak version, the idea is that language influences thought, and the way language is structured can affect how we perceive and remember things. And this version is more widely accepted. So the strong version is the weak version, while the weak version is the strong version, so to speak. So let's think of some examples for that. So some languages have many words for color or snow, which may help speakers notice differences more easily. Languages that use different time structures, for example, future focused versus present focused, may influence how speakers think about planning. So let's think of some of the strengths and weaknesses for the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. So strength is that it highlights the importance of language in cognition, and it's supported by some cross-cultural research, example how different cultures perceive colors and things like this. And it fits well with the weak version, which is realistic and flexible. What about the weaknesses? The strong version is too extreme. People can think without language. Of course, we can have thoughts without having the actual words for those thoughts. And it's difficult to test scientifically. Other factors such as culture and biology also influence thought, not just how we produce language. Speaking of cultures and different cultures throughout the world, let's have a look at our view of the world and how language is influential throughout the world. So variation in recall of events. Let's have a look at this. So how Whorf explained variation in recall is that language shapes thought. So different languages encode reality in different ways. Example, how they use grammar and vocabulary. And these differences guide how events are perceived, organized, and stored in memory. Labels affect memory. So if a language has specific words for types of events or actions, speakers are more likely to notice and later recall those details. Grammatical focus matters. So some languages emphasize who caused an event, while others focus more on what happened. And this can change several things, such as what people remember best, who they blame, and how accurately details are recalled. So here we have an image of a young lady from the Hopi Native American tribe. So what did Whorf claim about the Hopi? The Hopi language does not divide time into clear units like past, present, and future in the same way we do when we use English. Instead of talking about time as countable objects, so for example like 3 days, 10 minutes, the Hopi focus more on whether an event is ongoing, whether it's expected to happen, or whether it's already happened. And how does this link to variation in the recall of events? Well, Whorf argued that because of this, Hopi speakers are less focused on exact timings. They may recall events in terms of processes or cycles rather than precise dates, exact sequences. Whereas English speakers, by contrast, are more likely to recall when something happened, how long it lasted, and who caused the event. And this shows that variation in the recall of events can depend on the language spoken. Another example is the Zuni people of North America. So Whorf used the Zuni people of North America to argue that language influences perception and memory, leading to variation in the recall of events. Whorf claimed that the Zuni language does not clearly distinguish between some colors that English separates, particularly yellow and orange. Instead of two distinct labels, Zuni used a single or overlapping term for these colors. And Whorf argued that because of this linguistic difference, Zuni speakers may be less likely to notice or remember an object or event involving yellow or orange. English speakers with separate color words are more likely to recall which color was involved. And this suggests that language affects what details of an event are encoded and later recalled. So the Brown and Lenningberg 1954 variation in the recall of events. Brown and Lenningberg carried out a classic study to test Whorf's idea that language influences memory, focusing on color recall. The aim of the study was to investigate whether having specific words for colors affects how accurately people remember and recognize those colors. The method was that participants were shown color chips. They were later asked to recognize the same color again, or recall it from memory. Some colors had clear, well-known names, examples red, blue. Others were harder to name, example pale or unusual shades. The findings is that colors that were easy to name were remembered more accurately, recognized more quickly, and colors that were harder to name were remembered less accurately and were less easy to remember. So Brown and Lenningberg concluded that language affects memory. If a color has a specific label, it is more likely to be encoded and recalled. And this supports Whorf's idea that language influences how events are remembered. Therefore, variation in recall of events can occur because different languages have different words. Alright guys, quite a lot of information there. Hopefully you guys managed to take it all in. But it's all thinking about how the language that we use helps our cognition, helps us to remember things, helps us to formulate our thoughts and how they develop. Hopefully that gives you guys a better understanding of language and thought. Catch you guys in the next one. We will continue our GCSE journey. Peace.